Let's talk to Karin Robinson, former Vice Chair of Democrats Abroad, and find out what she's going to be doing when the Donald turns up. Karin, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, Karin.
Good morning.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Will you be organising any protests against the Donald when he gets here?
Well, we're still forming our plans. I think Democrats abroad will certainly want to make our voice heard in some way, shape, or form, no question. But I think what's really important to us as Americans is two things, as American expats here. First of all, we have a tremendous sense of solidarity with many of the communities that have been negatively affected by Donald Trump's policies, particularly immigrant communities and refugees. For us to watch immigrant children being torn away from their children, from their families, as deportations ramp up in the United States, that hits really home because a lot of us are living in this country. We're living here as immigrants ourselves. So we want to express our solidarity with some of the communities who've been negatively affected, including people who are threatened by the Muslim ban, which is working its way through the courts right now. But the second thing, and probably the most important thing that we'd like to get across to anybody who's listening to the sound of my voice right now, is that protest is obviously valuable, but the most important statement that we can make is through our votes. There is a midterm election coming up in November, and everyone with an American passport has the right to vote in it, whether they live in the United States or not. So we're very keen to make sure people go to votefromabroad.org, register to cast their ballots, make sure they make their voices heard in the way that's going to have the most impact, which is at the ballot box.
Yes, of course. But, I mean, as far as the visit by Donald Trump is concerned, generally speaking, are you going to be demonstrating?
Will I personally be demonstrating? Yes, I expect I will. And
really?
I'm sure Democrats abroad will
I find that amazing.
Way, shape, or form.
See, I find that quite surprising in a way because obviously, the Democrats lost and the Republicans won. And you never really see people from the Republican Party demonstrating against any of the Democrats. We didn't see, for example, demonstrations against Barack Obama when he won.
Well, Barack Obama was more popular than Donald Trump is. I think one thing I'd like to say...
that's arguable, isn't it? I mean, the fact is, it doesn't really matter what popularity ratings are. The fact is, one won an election, and so did the other.
You're 100% correct. It doesn't matter what your popularity rating is. He has views that are anathema to our views and beliefs about what's best for America. I think it's worth putting into the context of the fact that this is not a unique experience of Donald Trump being protested again. I mean, the protests that took place on the day after his inauguration were bigger than the inauguration itself. The women's marches, the gun rights marches that we helped support here in London as well. Protest is a normal part of Donald Trump's presidency, and actually
protest is a part of the left, isn't it? Because the same thing happens here. Whenever the Tories get in, there's always loads of protests. Whenever the Labour Party gets in, there's never any.
Well, I mean. So, are you objecting to people expressing their political opinion?
I'm just giving you my. No. Listen, you can protest as much as you like. Of course, you can't protest in China, or you can't protest in Saudi Arabia, which is when we had the last two state visits. But I guess you didn't protest them either, did you?
In China, well, I did protest against China, against certain Chinese policies, and I'm certainly very concerned about those. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
So, do you have time to do anything else apart from just protest against things?
Yeah, actually we do. And I think we're still forming our plans on that. But it's a really great question because we don't want to just be anti-anything. We want to be pro-something.
Really?
And I think what we are very much in favour of is supporting the vulnerable people who have been harmed by Donald Trump's policies. And so we are working...
where are all these vulnerable people and why are they not protesting?
Well, they are.
Really?
Quite a lot of them. And then we're working along...
Well, there's loads of them here, are there?
Oh, there's tons of them here, absolutely. So we're talking to the LGBT community. We're talking to refugee and immigrant rights groups.
What's the LGBT community in Britain got to be concerned about the American president for?
That's a fantastic question. Let me talk about a few policies that might potentially affect the LGBT community right here in Britain.
Okay.
One of which is immigration rights. Now, currently, LGBT people have hard-won immigration, the right to bring their partners to the United States as immigrants. A lot of our members are in that situation. Trump's been trying. He would like to find a way to overturn that through the Supreme Court.
Good morning to you, Erich.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now, it's got to be honest with you. I mean, look, Donald Trump may be popular with half of the population in America, but it looks like well over half the population in the UK not very keen on him. But what we really are split on is whether or not he should come to the UK or not.
I mean, I've always been an advocate, well, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, that he should be allowed to come here because I think banning him, you were talking about free speech earlier in the show, and, people have a right to protest, and the majority of people in the UK don't like him. The vast majority of people in London don't like him. So having a few protests about it would be good. And that's why I thought I'm surprised he's coming. I will still be surprised if he comes, because he cannot stand bad optics.
Well, no,
We've
but it
just seen
depends.
that.
I mean, there was talk about him coming to meet the Prime Minister at number 10. I mean, anyone who's been around number 10, that is not a... You've got Whitehall on one side, you've got, the parks on the other side. It's virtually impossible for him to be able to enter there without coming across the protesters. So it looks like it's going to be checkers. They're going to take him down those country lanes for the Prime Minister's country retreat, and also possibly, helicopter him into Balmoral to visit the Queen. And that'd be quite a cunning way of getting him into the country without it being a state visit. No sort of red carpet and carriages down the Mall, but he could still meet the two most powerful women in the country.
But he doesn't. I mean, he might care about that a little bit, but he's going to want a state visit. Obama had a state visit, and if Obama did something,
no,
Trump
didn't he? He
wants it
didn't have a.
badly.
I don't think he did have a state visit, did he? I thought he had a visit, but not a state visit.
I researched this before we got on the line, and according to Wikipedia,
oh well.
he did. So I think
I'll stand corrected by Wikipedia.
Your fantastic producers, but he's still going to get the split screens of him hiding in the woods at Chequers and mass protests in London, and he's going to hate that because what he loved was being the handshaking and the dandruff flicking with Macron, and he ignored the fact that Macron went in front of Congress and criticized him for an hour.
Yeah, I mean that's also we know why the first anniversary of his election victory, there was Donald Trump in China, knowing perfectly well that he would have this wonderful reception because everything would be controlled there, demonstrations wouldn't be allowed, and they would literally kowtow to him.
Saudi was a great place for him to go because there's a lot of open and free expression in Saudi Arabia, and so these are the kind of places that he likes to visit because they kowtow to him.
Yeah, and that's what he likes. Erich McElroy, thank you so much for joining us at Writer and Comedian. Appreciate that.